Greetings, Slidell. This is Bob Riles, your host to the Grace Radio series Voices. This new adventure in programming for Grace Radio focuses on the voices of our neighbors here in Slidell about matters of community interest. Our program today features a recent speaker at our Slidell Ministers Association meeting. Hope you enjoy it.
So one of the ways that we learn about each other is each month we have somebody share a testimony. We have Lynn Von Morris. Lynn is a delightful woman, true servant of the Lord. I'm just so pleased that she's here this morning. Let's welcome Lynn.
It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I am so grateful to God for giving me another opportunity to let my light shine and to understand that God had a purpose for me and that everything that I went through is what makes me who I am today. And so I am grateful for that. I'm also grateful to you, Pastor St. Angelo, Brother Bob Riles, and to my pastor, Dr. Ray L. Larry. I always give him recognition for this opportunity because he insisted that I come and join other organizations as well. So I'm so grateful for that. My testimony is that I see the glory. I see it. I believe the glory. I see it. But there is a story that goes with it. I am from Chicago. I am the firstborn of my mother. My mom had me out of wedlock. At the time that I was born, everybody was married. So there was a stigma attached to me. I didn't know. I didn't have anything to do with it. My grandmother took over and I was raised by her. From the age of 3 to 7, I was sexually abused chronically. You know, my grandmother was going to church. She was Church of God, and she would go to shut-ins, and she would be there all day, seemed like, for me. And so my uncle had access to me. Going through that, as a child, I learned so much that I shouldn't have learned. I saw so many things that I should not have seen. I had no idea what God was going to do with my life because of what I went through. And even then, I wasn't pitiful. I was a rebel then because I knew I had a mouth and I could talk and I could tell, and I did tell. But in our family, it was be quiet. My language as a child told what happened to me, but if anybody would have taken the time to understand what I was saying as a child, because I used child's words, they would have helped me, I believe. That's okay. At the age of 7, I was in 2nd grade, and I know I went to school dirty. I went to school unkept. I knew I smelled bad. I didn't know what to do with it. Who cared? My grandmother, she could wash clothes really good, and she did. But in terms of taking care of me, she had her own guilt and shame out of my mom's decisions. And then she had her own issues because at the age of 13, she had her first child. So her parenting skills weren't intact. And then my mom's parenting skills weren't intact. At the age of 7, I was in 2nd grade, and I know I remember my teacher saying, I've had it. And I'm thinking to myself, I've had it too. I've had enough too. So my teacher, she grabbed me and she took me to the office, and I had my first introduction to the word neglect. I knew what it meant. Some kind of way I knew what it meant. And so they tracked down my mother, and my mother, she came to the school. She brought her boyfriend, Mr. Wonderful, who had been in jail. And so I moved in with my mother, didn't get a chance to say goodbye to my grandmother. I loved my grandmother because she was some type of caregiver. And even at her house, we at least had a bed. I mean, those are the kinds of things that you negotiate. At least we had a bed. So I go with my mom and her boyfriend, and my mom, she starts going to work. My brother is 12 months old. My mom leaves me at home with him. I wake up, and he's behind me. We slept on the floor. She made pallets for us, and I would wake up with him behind me. This went on for a while. I hated the 4th of July. Everybody says that's the day of freedom. That wasn't my day of freedom as far as I was concerned, because on the 5th of July, that's when everybody found out. Now, every morning I'd wake up screaming and hollering because my mom was at work, so nobody was there to protect me. Here I am, 7 years old. I learned my negotiation skills. I learned how to negotiate. I learned how to negotiate because I wanted, you're going to mess with my brother, okay, I'll take it. You're going to hurt my brother, okay, I'll do it. And for the first time, during that time, that's when I started to hate myself. Because one day I actually participated. I'm talking about at 7 years old. One day I said, okay, if I just surrender and give in and just cooperate, fully cooperate, maybe this will be the day that it'll stop. And in that moment, that's when I hated myself. 7 years old, I'm negotiating life. That's the tragedy of it. Don't stop there. Don't stop there. They found out about it. My neighbor knocked on the door. And my eyes used to get me in trouble. My grandmother used to whoop me for bucking my eyes or for rolling my eyes. I didn't know what that meant. I just did it. You know, I told you I was a rebel. And so on this day, my eyes saved me because the neighbor knocked on the door and she said, what's going on? She heard this type of scream because she knew this scream was different from all the other screams. And she knocked on the door and she saw between the crack of the door, she said, what's going on? And this time I said, he keeps throwing me on the bed. That was my way of really telling, you know what I'm saying? And so she looked through the crack of the door and she could see him standing behind the door. And she knew. She goes and calls the police. They come. He drags me to the back of the room. By now, I guess he thought it was over. She was going to go on her merry way, so he was going to finish. And they came in, and this is where my turn took place. My mom started telling me, you don't want them to ask you a lot of questions. We got to go to court. They're going to ask you a lot of questions you don't want them to. And so, because I love my mother. At 7 years old, I'm still negotiating. I love my mother, so I say, yeah, I don't want them to ask me questions. 2 weeks later, I got to use the restroom, and guess who comes out of the bathroom? And that's when my spiraling took place. From the age of 7 to 16, I spiraled. No adult could tell me anything. I understand why kids don't respect authority because I had no respect for authority. But my teacher, my 7th grade teacher, along the way, I'm going from tragedy to tenacity. Don't stop at the tragedy because I'm going towards tenacity. Miss Adams, she said, your world is bigger than what you've been through. And she started to invest in me. And she started to pay for some of my school stuff. And she started to make sure I got to go on the field trips. And so I started to trade this bad behavior and decisions, and I started to gravitate towards positive things. I graduated from high school. I had the audacity to go to the university. I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I got an undergraduate degree in psychology. I'm moving from tragedy to tenacity. I had a grit. I filled out my own financial aid forms. My mother married along the way. Her life got a little bit better. And so he was left-handed, so I started writing with my left hand. And I signed my own financial aid forms because I knew they weren't going to sign them. I got to school 3 weeks, I didn't have my books. I still had my tenacity and my grit. I went to the library. I used the books at the library until my financial aid came in. Tenacity. I went from tragedy, tenacity, and then triumph. I've been married for 30 years. Me, coming from that, I've got 4 kids, 4 college graduates as of December this year. I've got a master's degree in rehabilitational psychology. I didn't do it for anybody else but me. I was just trying to figure out me. My husband has a PhD in pharmaceutical research and development. He developed the drug Zyprexa for schizophrenia. As I did mental health counseling, I was sitting there with my clients thinking, you got any Wellbutrin for me? You got any Seroquel for me? That's the triumph. I turned my life around. God continued to show me that all things work together for my good. All things, all the stuff, the dirt, the nastiness, the filth that I went through. It worked together for my good. I'm not pitiful. I'm powerful. I empower people. I understand that what I went through wasn't for me. I've had an opportunity to change so many people's lives, men and women, boys and girls. I'm not pitiful. I'm not arrogant. I'm just telling you who I am. Lynn Morris, victorious. God is making a way for me. God is opening up doors for me to bless people. This is my time. Yes. The student told me at school, Miss Morris, why are you nervous? You were cut out for this. God is making a way. And finally, God introduced me to Psalm 138, verse 8. He will perfect the things concerning me. Yes. Thank you for this opportunity. Amen.
My goodness. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for sharing your story with us. You never know the person sitting on the chair next to you, where they've been. But we help solve that problem. A great story of victory. You know, when I hear these stories about what happens to children and how God intervenes and changes them, it gives me hope. It gives me hope because on the news, when you read the news and you hear what's going on in our world, a sense of hopelessness begins to slip in. You know, is there hope? As long as there's a cross, as long as there's a resurrection, there's hope. And your story is this beautiful story of hope. And I'm so glad that God intervened in your life. And it's a challenge to us when you see little boys and girls to intervene and bring them the story of Jesus Christ so that their lives can be changed.
Thank you, Slidell, for tuning in to Voices here on Grace Radio today. We want to hear from you. You can call us now at 985-250-1037. You can leave a comment. You can send us a text. If you have comments about today's programming, something that you heard that was of interest to you, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We would encourage you to like us on Facebook, Grace Radio of Slidell, where you can leave a comment. You can also check in on our website, www.graceradioslidell.net. There you can make a tax-deductible donation to support this station. We need the support of listeners just like you. And again, give us a call, 985-250-1037. Well, that's it for now. Join us again on Voices of Slidell daily at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. and get in the flow of God's grace here in Slidell.